just youth leadership that we have, teach them to be better communicators and leaders. So every chance we give them to shine, to help, to volunteer, to tutor, think that will, as you talked about, help build their self-confidence, their self-esteem, helps them make those healthy, positive choices because, number one, it helps them, but also they know they're a younger generation looking at them going, oh, okay, I see what you're doing now. I should do that too.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, I understand that we have a caller on the line.
Oh, good.
So I'd like to invite our caller to the table, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
And okay, very good. Well, caller, thank you for calling in. Questions or comments either for myself or Mr. Hardy this evening? And we'll get the sound out here. Hello? Well, it sounds like the caller will have to call back.
Okay.
Somehow or other, they got dropped off the line.
Okay.
But that's okay. I'm sure they'll call back.
Yeah, I'll call back. Great. Look
That's
forward to
right.
that.
Now, we are about at the halfway point of our program, and I know that there's a number of issues that you have been working on while you've been on the board, and that you want to continue to work on, and that's why you're seeking re-election, obviously. So why don't you start with, I know that this issue of, because you hear so many people talking about achievement gaps, and you talked about this very clearly, very eloquently at the candidate forum that I attended, trying to make a distinction. It isn't just, we're not talking about achievement gap here, it's more about equity gap. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about your thoughts on that?
Sure, Diana. For me, the term achievement gap is almost becoming a detestable term. There is some truth to that phrase, and where that truth lies, and we had a discussion about this in June at a national conference I went to that I talked about earlier. So we had a presenter, and he talked about the achievement gap in terms of systemic isms, primarily systemic racism. So as the Europeans settled here in the United States and built up an education system, number one, quite often they left out the original people from this area, American Indians. And so when American Indians were brought into the education system, they were brought in too often to learn to not be American Indians, but to be like the Europeans. And then you look into the whole history of isms in terms of African Americans and the separate but equal or separate but unequal, Brown versus Board of Education. So anyway, so all of that exists, and that has led to an achievement gap because of the system that wasn't created to make sure all students, no matter what their racial, ethnic heritage, had equal access to a high quality education. But for me, otherwise, when people say there's an achievement gap, it's a mantra. It's like a cast-off phrase. Oh yeah, I'm serving on the school board to get rid of the achievement gap, or I want to work in education to get rid of the achievement gap. Every student can achieve equally, no matter what their demographic background is, and no matter what their socioeconomic background is. For me, the issue that is facing us in the education industry is educational equity. And last night at a committee meeting that I served on for the strategic plan that I talked about, it's called a shared accountability. So we talked about how we can get different people to be accountable for our students' education. We went over the difference between equality versus equity. And I used an example from the Courageous Conversations cultural proficiency training we're going through as a school district right now. So equality is every child will have a pair of shoes. Equity is every child will have the right pair of shoes that helps them move forward in life.
Right.
So it's a big difference between equality and equity. And so me, and that equity piece is what we're missing across our district, to be quite honest. People have perceptions of schools in East St. Paul, schools in the west side of St. Paul, schools in the north end of St. Paul aren't the same, don't provide as high quality of education, et cetera, as maybe our schools in Highland Park area, St. Anthony Park area, our Central High School. And so for me as a board member, I don't like that. So I want any parent, any family member, and I've been talking to people about this on the phone these past few months, to feel like I can send my child to any elementary school, and they're going to have equity and educational opportunities, not sameness, but equity. They're going to go there when they graduate, as they move on through the years up to 12th grade and graduate, they'll be ready for college ready, don't need any remedial education, and they'll be career ready. They'll have the interpersonal skills as well as the acumen, the thinking skills to be successful in whatever career they choose. That's what I need all 76 of our schools and programs to do on an equal basis, on an equity basis. So that's the big difference, and that's where we have to go.
And I think that this distinction is a valid distinction, and I think it's a very important distinction. And before I came out to the studio this evening, I thought to myself, you know, I was wondering about the prevalence of this, like you said, just using the word achievement gap to kind of mean something sort of in a general way, but it doesn't really specifically describe what the reality is. And I agree with you on that. And I have to share with you, and of course we have a lot of viewers of this show, and sometimes people hear little ideas on the show and they go, yes, we're going to bring about change. And I think this is an opportunity to bring about change, because just for instance, I pulled up, and because you know, we're both Democrats, and I pulled up the DFL platform, for instance, and it talks about the action agenda in particular. It talks about to support legislation to close the achievement gap, and I think one of the things that we can do is change that action plan to be more responsive to the distinction you've made. See, you're ahead of your time here.
A little bit, yes.
But there's a lot of folks who listen to this, and I think that it's a very important concept.
Yes.
And that when you start thinking about this concept versus just using the general words of achievement gap, you really can get further down the road in trying to understand what are the solutions. And I think that's what you're trying to get at, isn't it?
It really is, Diana, and you know, and dig into that a little bit further. So right now we have the expectation at the district level and at the board level that every one of our teachers who are dealing with our students sees every student in his or her classroom equally and equitably as having the opportunity to learn and grasp what I'm teaching and be able to move on to the next grade, reading at grade level, understanding math at grade level, et cetera, et cetera. So if they're in my 5th grade class, they will leave my class in June at the end of the school year ready for 6th grade and having the skills, the thinking skills, and the proficiency to tackle what they learn in 6th grade. And so we need that moving up through the grade levels in all of our schools. And so that's that equity piece. For me also, and we talked about this we're focusing on integration and choice with the strategic plan and how that's going to change for our families and parents. We want to make sure, though, that no matter what happens, whatever school you choose, that there is equity of resources. And you know, we have our PTOs and our parent groups, and depending on what neighborhood you live in St. Paul, you know, some of the neighborhoods are definitely on the higher end socioeconomically compared to other neighborhoods. So we as board members want to make sure that the schools have equity in the necessary resources. May not have the extracurricular resources, but the necessary resources for our students to have that opportunity for high academic achievement, which I think all of them are capable of doing, which is why I don't like achievement gap. So that's the equity piece, to make sure the resources are there, the people resources, the information technology resources. I'm definitely focused on that. Whatever we can do with financial resources based on our current budget constraints, but make sure every school has equity, even if they aren't equal in the dollar amount of those resources.
And I think even one of the consequences, I guess, if for kids, is that if they constantly hear the phrase achievement gap, achievement talks about, you know, how well can you do? Is it possible for you to do?
Yeah.
And it almost sounds like, you know, maybe you just can't quite do it. I mean, it could have that connotation. And in this day and age, when you're working on trying to give students hope for the future,
yes,
that they are going to be able to look to their future as something positive, that they can be that engineer that they see you know, on TV, or that they can be this teacher that they think that they would like to be, or a nurse or a doctor or an attorney, whatever it is. Talking about it in different terms and not achievement, which could imply you might not make it. talking about it more about the resources. Then it's not about the kids' mental ability.
Exactly.
You see,
exactly.
And it's more about the resources that are being provided to the children so they can achieve their maximum potential.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that's why, and I just use stronger language, that's why I detest the term.
Yes.
Exactly what you're talking about, Diana, because we're labeling.
Yes.
We're labeling our students. Okay, so African Americans are faring the poorest in terms of comparison of proficiency, of academic proficiency.
They have the largest achievement gap.
Achievement
okay,
gap.
what does that mean? Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But you're going to tell me as an African American man that all of our African American male students, African American female students cannot graduate and go on to Harvard or Yale or University of Minnesota or St. Catharines University, wherever they want to go for post-secondary education. Then they can take any career path they want. If they want to be the next CEO of Pillsbury, look at me, of General Mills, or wherever they want to be, yes, they can do that.
Right.
And just a quick political commercial. That, to me, was the beauty of President Barack Obama being elected. So whenever you think about him right now, it showed a lot of our students of color, our young people of color, that, hey, no matter what my skin tone is, I can get to that position. Let me think about what high position I can dream about now and make a reality. And don't tell me anything about achievement. Don't tell me because I'm Latino or because I'm American Indian or because I immigrated from some other country that I'm going to face this gap this based on those demographics. Tell me you're going to help me learn the most I can to tap into that critical thinking that I'm capable of doing, to have those high grades I'm capable of having. And it cut me off here, but now you got me excited.
That's good. That's good.
So we have this program that we're implementing more in more St. Paul public schools, AVID. So I talked about that at the forum where you attended. So advancement via individual determination. So this program started in 1980 in San Diego from a teacher who said, I want to reach out to the students in the academic middle. So they're not the failing students, they're not the high achieving students, they're right there in the middle, the C's, the low B's, those kind of students who sometimes get pushed through the system because they don't have they're not crying out for strong needs of tutoring and one-on-one attention, and they're not knocking the doors out of every class they go into. They sort of coast through. So this program grabs those students, almost literally grabs them and says, hey, you know what, if you get a little bit of organization, you focus a little bit, and you have adults tell you you can go to a high-end university if you want to go there, or you can achieve one of those highly skilled professional jobs, and we're going to give you the tools. So part of what AVID requires of the students who get enrolled, and this year we have it in 23 of our elementary schools, we have it in all but one of our middle schools, and all but one of our high schools, senior high schools. So we help those students to take regular classes, and they have to take an advanced class, usually an AP, advanced placement class.
And I can see where that helps to increase and elevate the expectations too for these students.
Exactly.
So that they maybe even increase their own expectations of themselves.
Exactly. I can do this. It's going to be a little work, a lot of work. Sometimes I'm going to complain. And I talk to the students. I have this heavy class load. Like every weekend I got to do homework. So you know what? By the time you get to 12th grade and you're having 25 applications or letters from colleges and universities saying, hey, come to see us, you're going to be glad of that.
That's right.
Yep.
Now I understand. I heard the phone ring, so I believe they're gone again.
Oh, no.
So that's all right, but that's fine.
Okay.
As soon as the phone rings again, I'll try to break in quick.
There you go. Okay.
So now a couple of the other initiatives. Tell us a little bit about some other initiatives that you're really fired up about.
Last Wednesday, we kicked off our marketing campaign, and I have a marketing along my communication background, so I've been pushing for this as a board member. Our marketing campaign for the whole school district is called One Thing I Love About St. Paul Public Schools. So we had a bus, and we had a big media splash and everything, and Mayor Chris Coleman, who's been a great partner for us, by the way, and our Superintendent Valeria Silva, kicked off this program. So basically, we just want everyone currently involved with the school and all of our alumni to say, this is the one thing I really like about St. Paul Public Schools. Is that our phone?
It kind of sounded like the phone, but I wasn't, no, they're saying
okay.
no.
Okay. All right, keep going. So anyway, in this program, we're marketing all of our schools, marketing our school districts, saying, you know, this is something great that we're doing, whether it's an education, a specific class, a program, an extracurricular service, you know, which I believe in that, by the way, the arts, the sports, and all of those, you know, whatever it is. You know, my teacher cared about me. You know, I had my custodian who always asked me, how are you doing?